Hello, I will be telling you about the 7 exoduses of Kashmiri Pundits or Kashmiri Hindus. Kashmiri Muslims state that the people of Kashmir are the ones to decide whether they want to be a part of India or not. The Kashmiri Pundits are also the people of Kashmir. They choose to be a part of India. There is a historical reason behind why Kashmir, which was once a holy land, turned into a deadly war zone. Moreover, Kashmir itself is a Sanskrit word. Listen to the story of Kashmiri Pundits. They were traumatized by invaders, terrorists, and separatists. Their women were raped. They were given a horrific choice between either being converted or being killed. In the year 1990, Kashmiri Pundits experienced a mass genocide, but it was not the first time they had to face it. There have been 7 exoduses of Kashmiri Pundits throughout history about which many people are still unaware. Listen to how the exoduses changed the demographics of the valley. The first Kashmiri Pundit exodus, it all started in the 14th century. Shamir, the first Muslim invader, who started to rule Kashmir in 1339 AD, converted many Kashmiri Pundits to Islam through violent means. He destroyed their temples and ruined their heritage and culture. Shamir was soon followed by Taimur, the Lame. He drove a huge wedge between majority Hindus and minority Muslims. In fact, he made a law to persecute Kashmiri Pundits. Following him, came Sultan Sikandar. He forced many Kashmiri Pundits to convert to Islam, desecrating many Hindu temples and murdering the ones who opposed. In order to preserve the precious Hindu culture and traditions, many Kashmiri Pundits had to flee their homes. As a result of the first Kashmiri Pundit exodus, only 11 Kashmiri Pundit families stayed in Kashmir. The second Kashmiri Pundit exodus lasted from 1506 AD to 1585 AD. During the second exodus, the Chuks came into power. Chuks were a group which had become a part of the army of Shamir. Chuks crushed their political rivals by murders and conspiracies. They were no less ruthless than the rulers who had come before them. Fateh Khan from 1506 AD to 1516 AD with Shamir's Chuks demolished many Hindu places of worship and tried to remove all traces of infidelity and idol worship from Kashmir. This was also known as the Dark Ages or Dark Period in the history of Kashmir because it was the ruthless era of the Chuks. The Chuks were actually Shia Muslims, whereas the ones who ruled before them were Sunni Muslims. They, like the others, forcibly converted many Brahmin families to Islam. Some Kashmiri Pundits sent a plea to the Chuks, but they ruthlessly threw them in jail. They persecuted 950 Kashmiri Pundits every day. In order to convert the remaining Hindus, they forced them to consume beef. Moreover, thousands of cows were slaughtered every week because the rulers knew that Hindus worship the cows. As a result of this, of all the violence and of all the punishments for being Hindus, there was a massive exodus where many Kashmiri Pundits once again fled to never return. Now came the third exodus under the Mughal Empire from 1585 AD to 1753 AD. It all started with Akbar the Great, who was known for being a very humane and liberal emperor. Akbar embraced the idea of letting different religions coexist and allowed Kashmiri Pundits to come back into Kashmir and worship their religion freely. Just when the Kashmiri Pundits started to feel back at home in their own homeland of Kashmir, came his son Jahangir Khan, who did not believe in the same religious tolerance that Akbar had believed in. With Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb were also interested in the torture and mass extermination of Kashmiri Pundits. Aurangzeb, one of the most ruthless leaders, immediately acted upon converting all of India to Islam, including Kashmiri Pundits. The first step that Aurangzeb did was to exterminate all Hindu scholars because he believed they will slow down the process of conversion. Thousands of Kashmiri Pundits were converted to Islam or moved to neighboring to continue practicing Hinduism. As you can see, the overall trend of all the exoduses were that certain Muslim leaders came into power and as a result crushed the Kashmiri Pundits' culture by either forcefully converting them to Islam, killing them, or leaving them with no option other than to flee their beloved homes. This trend continues in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th exoduses. Now comes the 4th exodus of Kashmiri Pundits. In 1753, which was under the rule of the Afghan governors, the leaders continued the mass extermination of Kashmiri Pundits, which led the Kashmiri Pundits to once again flee the safety of their homes to Kabul. Kashmiri Pundits were physically tortured in the most ruthless fashion and had to suffer much emotional and spiritual anguish. The 4th exodus came to an end when the Sikhs finally captured Kashmir, ending the rule of the ruthless Afghan governors and bringing a little bit more peace. Then came the 5th exodus of Kashmiri Pundits, which took place in the early 1900s. Due to Pandit Birbaldar, Maharaja Ranjit Singh was able to re-establish a Hindu government in the Jammu and Kashmir state after the Sikhs took over. This was a period where all religions were able to coexist in harmony. Many Muslim rulers in India started rising up and forming an organization, which was later known as the Muslims' Leading Room. They were annoyed that educated Kashmiri Pundits lived comfortable lives and held high positions in the government. As a result, on July 13, 1931, later known as Black Day, was a grave day for all Kashmiri Pundits. Kashmiri Muslims looted and murdered many people and properties in Srinagar. As a result, after this the Dogra rulers came into power, and Kashmiri Pundits no longer had any rights. After independence was granted to India from the British, even though the entirety of the nation was celebrating the victory of independence, Kashmiri Pundits were unable to do so because Pakistan launched an attack on Kashmir. Once again, thousands of Kashmiri Pundits had to leave their homes to seek refuge in Srinagar. The post-independence period in Jammu and Kashmir led to an unmistakably slow and steady exodus of the Kashmiri Pundit community, and this was primarily due to the fact that Kashmiri Pundits simply had no rights, privileges, or opportunities anymore in Kashmir. As horrifying as the event of the 5th exodus were, they pale in comparison to the events of 6th and 7th exoduses. During the 6th exodus, the ruling of Gul Shah was one of the worst, as there were the most amount of curfew days ever. Gul Shah was eventually nicknamed Gul Curfew because of this. A number of Kashmiri Pundits protested, resulting in lots of violence, the destruction of temples by Muslims. Because of this, the Kashmiri Pundits understood two things: Kashmir has only become a land for Kashmiri Muslims and was no longer safe for the Kashmiri Pundits, and that too, the peaceful insights that Mahatma Gandhi showed India were unfortunately very short-lived in Kashmir. Now for the 7th and final exodus of Kashmiri Pundits, which is ongoing and has never actually ended. More than 500,000 Kashmiri Pundits fled in 1990, leaving behind everything they had, believing in a culture that was more than 5,000 years old. Brainwashing and instigating the Kashmiri Muslim youth, Pakistan laid a trap of making Kashmir independent and thus resulting in lots of violence. Advocate Tika Lal Taplu, followed by Justice Neelkant Ganju and many others, tried to take a stand for the Kashmiri Pundits. Unfortunately, many Kashmiri Pundits suffered brutal torture where red-hot knives were touched to their eyes, their tongues were pulled out and cut in half with scissors, youths were kidnapped, tortured, shot with multiple bullets and then were thrown into the Jhelum River. One lady was ripped apart into two with a saw, threatening letters were pasted on doors or temples to either Kaliu, Giliu Uraliu, which means run, die, or accept Islam. There was a saying at this time that Kashmir main agar renahin, Allahu Akbar Kenahaga. The 7th exodus in Kashmir is still not over, with Kashmir still in a state of political and religious turmoil. The struggle continues for the thousands of Kashmiri Pundits all over the world. Despite of all the violence they have been experiencing, they never held guns nor harmed anyone. They never forced anyone to accept Hinduism. They don't support mass killings nor they forced anyone to leave their home. They just want their home back. They believe in peace. They believe in the idea of coexisting. They are the people of Kashmir who choose to be a part of India. They hope Kashmir again transcends in enlightenment and spirituality. They are the Kashmiri Pundits. Thank you for listening.